Hi everyone, welcome to Under Thunder Mountain. It's good to see you again. My goodness, have we been in a heat wave in New England. Gee, I hope you're doing a lot cooler than we are here. I've moved my space so we can be a little closer to the air today. Come on in. Okay, well, I hope that this lighting works well. I have a switch, I can turn it on, so if anyone who's listening in my live chat wants to say the lights are dark, let's try it brighter, I'm more than happy to give it a try. Well, we talked about your self-love narrative last week. Hope it's been going well. Hope you took care of yourself well, and you did some good things. Remember, one of the first messages that we shared together was the message around self-love. And it's one of our most challenging expressions of ourselves because we have a dual nature. And in our dual nature, we have an ego who really doesn't allow us a lot of room for that. It's our driving force. And with Mars coming forward, we have that very strong Mars active energy. So how's your self-love narrative doing? Did you take some time for yourself in the morning when you woke up? Or did the alarm buzz you out of bed again? Did you take a moment to be in gratitude for a new day? These little tidbits or breadcrumbs along our path in life are very beneficial for our transformation process because it's with these little steps that we take. Remember I talked about the turtle? It's these little steps that we take that help us to reach our goal. And then sometimes along the path we have a movement of greater leaps. Remember, I mentioned when we're in fear and we want to move to love, a place of love, we oftentimes have to take a leap. And the leap that I spoke of and the fuel for that leap is faith, because that faith is something that's of a substance, but we can't see it, but it's something we believe in. So that's where we kind of left off in our first part of the How's Your Self-Love narrative show that I did last week. If you didn't see it, check it out on the rebroadcast. I'm Kathleen Fennedy, author of Under Thunder Mountain, doctorate in medical humanities, and I've had some wonderful, interesting journeys in life that have brought me to a place where I feel so blessed and honored to be able to be sitting here and speaking with you. As many of you know, I'm a 10-year cancer survivor who chose an alternative path. And we know that every day, unfortunately, many individuals are suffering or passing over from cancer. And it's come to a point where pretty much there isn't anyone who doesn't know someone who's going through that particular disease. And that's the place from which I had a huge growth experience and spent the past 10 years writing and publishing Under Thunder Mountain and sharing with everyone the information that I've gathered along the way to heal from cancer in a way that allows less toxicity to our body, coming in for our waves. And so what I really work on is around finding the least toxic of an environment and finding a balance when we're having to or we feel inclined that we are going to choose a toxic element, picking our poisons, so to speak. So the self-love narrative that we're talking about is all about you, or me, or all of us. But as we come to a place where we're actually inhabiting a loving consciousness about our own self, we are then empowered just by the energy of who we are as a being to emanate and share that love. And like anything, love is contagious, it's infectious, and so when we pass the love on, we lift everyone who is around us up. And that's what I hope that you will be able to receive from this show. If nothing is resonating with you, then you can find another channel that works really well, because we have so many different people out there with so many different messages around pretty much the same topics that we're all having conversations around. And that's the most important element when you're looking for someone who's going to help you as a coach through your journey in life, whether it's a life coach, a work coach, a health coach, a fitness coach. So that's why I always talk about choice and choice mattering at Under Thunder Mountain. Check out the Instagram, check out the Twitter. I pulled that back up. I put it down for a while, but I'll put some different things up there too. Hope you enjoyed the cobbler, and let's move on with today's show. So we spoke about rituals and getting out of bed, and that was the last topic that we had. And I said when we get out of bed, we're going to be really conscious about how we get up. We're going to take the time to recognize that we have a new life. And I was referencing the Huffington Post article, which said then, get up out of bed and eat your breakfast. And as we all know, food is vital for life, but it also is a part of our communion with other human beings, and it's also a part of our soul and our soul food. We have certain foods that resonate really well with our beinghood, and we want to enjoy them, and they can make us feel good, and as long as we're not being controlled by whatever food or technology or you fill the blank in, then we're able to enjoy. And 50-50 in a balanced way of life brings us into a more harmonious path, because without the light there is no dark, and without the dark there is no light. So the balance of who we are as a human is the balancing of our emotional light self and our emotional dark self. Because we're neither one nor the other, and at times in our life, depending upon what's going on, we can become out of balance. And the way to balance ourselves, at least what I have found on my path, goes directly to what we're eating. And our food is so challenging to find the food that is really good for us. One of my social media friends mentioned the other night that her daughter was having sauerkraut before she went to bed, which is so great. Sauerkraut, fermented foods are one of the best ways with our superfoods. As you know, you saw the list. I hope it's up out there. I gave us a couple of different superfoods, but on the superfood list. So I brought a couple of different superfoods into the room today to share. And one of the ways that I like to start off my morning, my breakfast, I guess one would say, is with lemon water. And I have it in a pretty glass, because I think it's really important for us to surround ourselves with, be our own beauty and shine home in our own beautiful way. And as Mama Lila said in my book that I wrote, you're all beautiful. Every one of us individually is uniquely made, and we're all individually beautiful. And each one of us, this is the only frame that we're going to have in this lifetime. This is it. So being in a self-loving relationship with yourself is one of the gifts that we can give to ourselves. And then when we have that presence, we can share it with others. If you don't have it, you can't give it. And so self-love for me has been my biggest growth, is in the self-love area. So to life, this is lemon water, no sugar, no honey. It's very good. But it jump-starts the liver. So it's really good for the body. Another way that I like to start my day, especially if I notice that perhaps what was going on last night and I might have gone to bed and I wasn't able to release a thought and it came back, I love lavender. And lavender helps to soothe everything. And you can hear a little pipsqueak popping over in the corner. That's Ruby. So when I'm talking about food today, we all know I like us to get close to the dirt because it's all in our body. So when we have a diet that's raw and organic, we ingest these wonderful homeostatic soil organisms. Because it's very challenging in our world to have that, even though we can have little gardens and we can have inside basil plants and thyme and use the herb gardens because you can pick right out of the earth and your hand goes into the dirt, organic, clean dirt, non-sprayed, non-toxic kinds of dirt would be really good. And you go in and then you can eat it right from that. So because we don't have much of that anymore, I have been using for the past 10 years, as I'm rebuilding my, and I'm not selling this, you guys, you know, I'm just here sharing with you my tips and my tricks and some passages from the book and all the ideas that I have about how I healed stage 3 breast cancer, you know, and the radiation damage that had been done, and without using any of the pharmaceuticals at all. I'm going to get the little one. Here he is. So, yeah. Pets are really good for our health because they provide us with homeostatic soil organisms, and we know that they're good for our emotional health. And in my teachings, all of my health is holistic. So we're teaching about our mind, how do we change old patterns of thought, and I teach about our food and how we can dirty up our diet a little bit more so that we're eating more raw and organic at them. If we're not able to get the raw and organic foods, then we're using other products that are going to help to support that. This is organic coconut oil. Organic coconut oil is wonderful to eat. It's wonderful to use on our skin. I use it every day when I get up in the morning, because when I get up in the morning, I do the organic oil, the dry brushing, and the lavender oil. And I drink organic lemon with water and no sugar and no honey. that's just to get the body, the lymph system, the body activated. And the coconut oil is non-toxic. I brush my teeth with it. I put it in my hair. I have it on my skin right now because I'm not using really any makeup at this point. I will at some point, but I'm not right now. And then you can use nice organic oils. I love it. All the young mothers who have your children, you know, having your little one, Heidi, go to bed, having sauerkraut is great. Getting the children more adapted to earth-oriented products, especially in the technological world that we're in, being inundated with radiation waves on so many levels. The closer we can get farm to table, the healthier our gut will be, and the less we have to rely on probiotics and prebiotics and homeostatic soil organisms to support the process of digestion. Would you like to take it down? So that's one of the areas where I've had a lot of experience, because the radiation had essentially killed everything inside of the stomach, the intestines, and every body is very different, but for my body it was devastating, and as I said, it could have even have caused having my intestines or part of them removed. So I did the raw juicing, and that was 15 juices a day, and I did the coffee enema, and I did all that that intensely for 6 months, and then I shifted and reduced and found more balance, but that was only because my body had been so damaged. And as I said, that was after the course of 8 deaths in 6 years, and the immune system so compromised at that point. Even the best fighter, you've seen them, you've known them, they're your friends and family members, have a really difficult time being able to digest and process the strong drugs. And so now in the field of medicine, we're bringing in more and more of the alternative and complementary items. And I believe it's really important for everyone to have witnesses, to be able to make decisions and say, well, did you say that she was 63 years old and she's a 10-year cancer survivor and she had stage 3 infiltrating breast cancer? Maybe something that this person has to say could benefit. And that's why I'm doing it through this portal. I have the little boy, my Ruby, with me. Okay, superfoods. Now I made a list, as I said, and I put the list out last week, so we have it for today. Hemp Pro. Any kind of hemp powder, hemp seeds, hemp hearts. This is not going to do anything that's, altering your brain. This is just plant-based food, and it has really incredible nutrients for our body. And unfortunately, it turns everything green. So that's the hardest part, is when I'm making the alternative foods, and especially if you're making a shake that has hemp in it, it's going to be green. So we're all so used to having, green drinks now, which is good. You want to drink them as close to the raw as possible. Really, even if you get one of those NutriBullets, which is what I'm working with right now because of the fire. So I'm going to be getting a juicer, and when I'm in that space, I'll do some juicing again and show everyone juicing. It's so good, it's so quick, and it's so fast that the nutrients are absorbed like a sponge in our body with, I mean, like, it's not even a digestive issue. It's just every little being in the body is dancing, going, food, you know, instead of, what is this she put in here? What does she want me to do with this? Chia seeds. Chia seeds are excellent for omegas. And I just soak them. I soak them and I make like a little chia pudding, usually with the organic apple, and then you can put some bananas, and the children would love it. I put it in my little cookies or little, you know, tea cakes, and it works really good for that. I just want to, oh, and of course, we all know chocolate. So I was listening to CPTV the other day, and of course, you know, they bring on these individuals to sell what they're trying to sell. So basically, you know, they're trying to sell their products or their books, you know. And so I always encourage you to go and check out my book. It's on Amazon ebook for $2.99, and leave a little comment. It's not a how-to book, and it's not in that shape of a book. It's more of a book that is an inspiration book, and hopefully that when you go on the journey, you receive. I know some of the people that have already read the book have found that it's been transformative for them. So I don't know, because everyone reads something and receives what they're supposed to receive. So that's a beautiful thing. I encourage you to check it out, see if it helps, and pass it on. That'd be great. It's only $2.99. My intention with the book was coming from a place of love. Maybe it was because I had discovered so much self-love that I was able to give you my work so that you could heal, and you would have a choice, and you might even live. Okay, so I talked about organisms because the organisms are really important. And it's so interesting because a lot of the food that we eat has been put through some kinds of extremes. And we have extreme heat, or, you know, that I've never really understood it, where they'll say, oh, when you take something and you blanch it and freeze it, you save it, and it's better than eating it when it started to age. I'm not sure about that. I mean, I know that's what they say, but I think a lot of what I share are things that are questions and why, and I keep asking questions because I think that that's something that we have through our voice chakra, our throat chakra, that is kind of muffled over time. So I'm not sure that I agree with that. It seems to me as if you freeze it, or if you freeze dry it or whatever, you do save some nutrient value. I would agree. But I think what we lose are the life organisms, unless they're what they call tardigrades. We've heard about those. They're the microscopic beings that survive the most extremes. You know, they'll find them in the center of a volcano, or they'll find them in the polar ice. So you know me, I'm always about our 3 simple steps, and that's what I'm bringing in today. Again, 3 simple steps. Just keeping our self-love narrative moving along, and at the end, I'm going to open for questions. I know I've kind of closed thinking that the questions would come throughout, but I'll leave a space in the end for questions too. So one of the first things that you want to take care of is when you wake up is your spirit and your mind. Get yourself kind of straight. We're alive, thank God. And we're going to get out on the right side of the bed, not the wrong side of the bed, and that's a choice we make. We could roll out with an attitude of anger, or we could roll out with an attitude of gratitude. And as I said, because we're holistically connected, what we ate the day before will influence how you feel in the morning, and whether or not you're going to have senses and experiences of being a little angry, or you're going to have senses and experiences of being elated, because the life forms that live inside of our body that nourish our brain talk. That's why we're encouraged to get probiotics and prebiotics and homeostatic soil organisms, because they help to digest the matter that's in the 27 feet that we eat that has to be eliminated. These are topics that generally we don't want to think about as self-love, but I always say to a mother, you mother your little ones and even look to make sure everything looks good, but when it comes to ourselves, we tend to look at it. Sometime in our development, something shifted. And then, of course, there's different signs that we can look for in our body. I had what was called essentially a toxic gut, is what I would categorize it in. Although, I'm not really keen on categories like, women are banana, apple, or pear. It just, I don't know, none of that really has worked for me over my years, and maybe that's why I'm such a kind of individualistic pioneer person. But we have different types of bodies because we have allergies. Again, allergies are kind of related to the food. If we've been eating processed and preserved foods for years and GMOs, then we probably are going to develop allergies, and then generally, because the critters inside of our body are going to be passed on to our children, then that will pass on. And then we can have a bloated kind of belly, which has to do with just can't digest food, and I've been talking about that a little bit. Apple cider vinegar is an excellent drink in the morning for someone who's dealing with bloat. I know we see it all over the YouTube and the Facebook. We see all these videos coming up. It's not that we don't have the knowledge right now. I think it's finding the application. How do we do it? Because everyone seems to be very time crunched. And again, this is an ethos that has been encouraged as we have evolved. It doesn't necessarily have to be, but it is what it is. And until the generations start to shift that around, we could become automatons. But thankfully, the children are wanting to go outside, and the children are wanting to put down their tech, and the children are wanting to engage with other children, and they don't sit in a pool with a bunch of other people and everyone's on the machine. So the children are, again, sometimes they know so much more. So then you could have a sugar gut. That's when you have the candida and the yeast. And again, your soil-based probiotics will help with that. They'll digest, and then you eliminate, And again, too much sugar, thyroid issues. So sugar has been one of our poisons of our century. And because we weren't working with organic sugar even, I'm not, I don't think sugar is great, but our brain needs sugar, and so we have to find right sugars. I use raw honey, and I also know it's very good for the body, but then for someone it may not be. And we find our individual what works by continuing to work with it, and then we share it, and then you can try it and see if it works for you too. The other ingredient that I think is really important for our conversation today as we're shifting over our diet into superfoods. Why? Because we love ourselves and we want to have a whole, balanced body with a healthy mind and healthy thoughts and non-polluted, non-toxic thoughts come from non-polluted, non-toxic foods, because everything is energy and everything is relationship. How we are in relationship with the energy of whatever it is, whether it's our food, our relationships, what we drink, even how we think. Thoughts are energy. So we change our thoughts, we change our food, we're able to kind of cleanse on a continual basis. And I believe that really does help to prevent disease, because dis-ease is exactly that. It's dis-ease. And like a lot of other disruptive and disappearing and words, we know that that's not a good word. We don't want to be in a state of dis-ease. We want to be in a state of ease. And when we're in a state of ease, we have a whole different relationship with ourselves and our world. And things come along in life. It's, if everything's going well and the blessings are with you and you haven't had anything that's really so traumatic or a cycle of traumatic events, it's much easier and you have a flow of cash, it's much easier to, what they say, be happy. I think when life challenges and you have terrible tragedies and things that really create mind issues, that's when it begins to shift. And that's when it can be taken to another level entirely. I mean, really, I'm talking about you can really upgrade. And you think, well, no, I was doing pretty good, I had a pretty good, sense of what and who and all that, and then suddenly you realize when something that really takes it for a different kind of ride, it wasn't that valuable. So the shift happens. And so we're all going to become energy virtuosos. And with that, that is a personal journey, and it's a personal journey that you have with yourself, and you have the conversations in the day, in the morning, in the afternoon, or before you go to bed. But I take a good, me, as a practitioner, I do more, but I recommend seriously 20 minutes, and that's not a lot of time, to, no matter what and is calling you, to take the 20 minutes and do a few self-love aspects, and do that a couple of times of the day, so you can build up your self-love muscles. And so in the morning, a way to affirm your self-love, and it's about affirmations. I am infinite love. I am infinite light. I am infinite peace. And your ego, your saboteur, may even be whispering, depending on how loud it is. So the more that you become an inhabitant of infinite love and infinite light and infinite peace, that which is less than that, eventually, it gets tired of knocking on the door, right? It's not going to keep coming. Maybe once in a while to test. Are you really that? Let me just check. We talked about triggers. Remember, triggers are an opportunity to use the IRAP method, right? And even I'm really sensitive around this beautiful technology that we have because, you know, as I said, we have night and we have day. We have good and we have evil. We have the evolving concept of balance and finding our center so that we can take the two sides. Technology is wonderful. I mean, really, think about it. It's got really beautiful attributes that are so fabulous that we can actually communicate with one another en masse as a humanity. When we think about history where voices have been silenced for so long that they were never even heard. So there's something really dynamically beautiful about that. But at the same time, you know, we don't want it to be our matrix. You know, we don't want it to be our demon. We don't want to become enslaved to a system. And that's where our higher evolved minds allow us the ability to use our creations wisely, and we are challenged throughout time with that. And I think that we're in another time where we're being challenged to learn how to use something that we know very little about in terms of the health risks with this type of equipment so close to us and in our homes and in our clothes. And I think it's a really healthy thing to do, to disconnect every day. Not forever, not for, you know, I know some people say do a week fast and all that. I'm more about slow turtle-ani. You know, every time we do a little bit, that little bit adds up, and eventually we are able to do it on a regular, you know, easy, balanced, harmonious basis, as opposed to indulge and then fast, and then indulge and then fast. So find the rhythm that creates an ease within you. I know that it can be scary because we used to have, I know I'm old, huh? We used to have phones, okay? And you had to dial. So if there's an emergency, and we all have all of our phones turned off now, you have to turn it on. And that takes time. So the emergency element is there, and I understand that. But there are different times in the day, and there are different places in the house where you can at least not have the cell phone in your sleeping quarters, right? And just give your body a break from the radiation. I love us humans, you know. I think I just love us. I think we've got so many beautiful souls on this planet, and so many beautiful ways that people love one another and share. Okay, hey, listen, you know what? It's really healthy to live with a pet. And I know there are people that don't want any animals in their house at all. They just don't want it. But that's one of the ways that we can stay healthy, is by keeping pets in our environment. And so when we pet our pets, it gives us emotional support, but we also breathe in, and it actually builds our anti-allergy, you know. Now there are children or people who are already allergic, but that was probably something passed on. So encourage walking with pets, bringing them into your spaces, hugging a dog once in a while, and you'd be amazed at how that will lift your spirits, and it will also feed your inner microscopic world. I see so many people that I recognize and love so much. I hope you're all doing well. From my West Coast friends, I miss you. Love beams. Yeah, speaking of love beams, we did talk about that a little bit last week. okay, because guess what? None of us do anything perfectly. Okay, surprise, surprise. Okay. So we set the best intentions, and then we may slip up. But then here's where the forgiveness part comes in. So, and that's part of the self-love. So when we're able to go, oh, that's okay, I just slipped up for a little bit, and I can pick that, and I can continue on the next day. Something hiccups in there, and a lot of times people, myself included over the years, will go, oh, well, that didn't work. Well, I guess, I won't do that. Or I couldn't do that. Or any of the self-doubts that aren't self-love come in, and kind of, as I said, they're your ego saboteur. They're coming in to tell you what you can't do, why you're not good enough. We're all wired with it. It's the funniest thing, isn't it? So how's your self-love narrative? Have you been able to take that leap with faith to move from the fear to love? Do you love yourself enough to not be afraid to take the phone out of the room and disconnect from it so that you may miss a call? Okay, but it's 20 minutes. If you miss the call, chances are you can call them back in 20 minutes. Do you love yourself enough to give yourself that kind of a break away from something that we don't know a lot about? We enjoy the use of it, but we want to use it in a balanced way. So we're taking our healing and our journey in daily doses, in daily steps, like a turtle. We keep going along in the little turtle. We're not a hare running around crazy, passing out under a tree, not winning in the end, winning, losing, you know what I mean. You kind of like didn't really get what you were looking for. You wanted to get to a location, and then some would say, well, maybe you weren't supposed to go there. Again, all of this is something that you dialogue with in relationship to yourself, knowing that as a human being, we are the composite of cosmic dust and earth, and we have a form that's got breathable skin and a skeletal structure that moves in an energy body with chakras of the rainbow colors beaming inside of us, with life forms that live in 27 feet that feed the entire structure of our body and our mind. We know that there's something more than us. We've been searching for the answer to that question since the beginning of time. And that's part of our spiritual beinghood. And we know that we have a soul. And that feels different than the mind and the body. And all of that together is who we are individually. For me, as Kathleen Fennedy. And then I have the world in which I inhabit, as do you. And we have every one of us on the planet living in different dimensions, different time zones. Someone could be in a rainforest, in a tree, and someone could be in a penthouse, in a castle. And it's just this planet Earth, and we have the responsibility of how we're in relationship to the planet. And as we rise up in our consciousness, we want to do more to help the planet, and yet at the same time we're populating and creating our waste. So I think we're learning more and more about that part of us. That we do eat, and we also have a waste. We do watch, but we also need to be careful. Because when we're going through our journeys, I know this was something that was brought to my attention, and I'd never heard of the word before. It's called a healing crisis. because I was working so hard at all the things that I was doing, and I really didn't have any doctor supervision, because quite honestly there were no doctors that believed in anything that I was doing at that time, nor did they believe 5 years later and even 10 years later. I think that belief is finally started to filter in a little bit more, and there's a more greater audience within the medical community, but I dare say I haven't experienced a lot of it in Connecticut. So the healing crisis is something that happens to us individually, collectively, and I think as you know, nations go through healing crises, the earth goes through it. I think the cosmos goes through it. And in the healing crisis, that's the time where one wants to be really, really especially gentle, because sometimes you think you're doing all of the right things, but you don't notice any changes. As a matter of fact, you could actually feel a little worse. Because when we're releasing a lot of the toxins, whether they're food toxins from the intestines or our thought toxins, and you've got a good counselor, friend, a coach, someone that you could work with to help to release some of these patterns, like an old record. You don't really want to play it anymore, but you don't know how to get rid of it. Because we've gotten attached to things, sometimes we have hoarder. There are hoarder people who will hoard it. They don't want to let it go. They've been holding on to that thought for a long time, and they don't want to let it go. So all of this does build up, and as I said, there's a release. And I believe that this last cosmic cycle that we just went through, really très cool, huh? I mean, we've been through it since last summer with the eclipse, but then we got, eclipsual and cosmic planetary movements and the retrogrades, and then everything came back, and now it's all moving forward, and it's fast moving. And can you believe it? In all honesty, we are almost through the year of 2018. It's amazing. So when I've talked about how everything gets stretched and then released, we want to keep our balance. Homeostatic soil organisms, they keep everything in balance. Homeostasis. It's a good place for the body to be. So everything affects us, infects us, and effects us, right? Right. The effects, affects, and infectiousness of us all. So some would say, surround yourself only with the people that agree with everything that you agree with. I'm not sure, again, you know me, I'm the one, I'm always asking the question. I'm not sure that's exactly always the best route, because the pearl is formed out of the grit, right? And the lotus goes down at night into the mud and then comes up and blooms. And so there's interesting ways that we can create a group dynamic that's, what would I say? That's so nice and tart, you get that tongue sound, Create a group dynamic that's dynamic, receive new individuals into what people call their tribes, into your reality enclaves. Test the heart of the individual. The head will follow, right? And see how much love the person has inside of them, because healing is from the inside out. We use a lot of outside stuff, hair and clothing, and we have makeups, beautiful things that we can put on. We women love our makeups. I'm looking forward to finding some that work for me. And And yet, so much of our healing and who we are and how we shine on the outside is actually from the inside, you know. So when we eat really good foods and we get the proper nutrients with all the nice coconut oils, and we get the right fats in, because as a coconut oil fat will help our liver digest bad fat. Well, I think I've seen them say, put a tablespoon in your coffee. Well, there's a reason. It's good for you, okay? And I like to eat it raw when it gets into the heat again. I know there are tardigrades, and they survive in the most extreme of environments. And I like the idea of having one of them living inside of me, wouldn't you? And no matter what, right? I used to joke when I was younger. I'd always say, oh, you know, we got to be like a roach, you know, kind of like being able to handle the chemical toxicity of the environment that we're living in, and grow and evolve and be able to, you know, create new life out of that. Little did I know, eh? Okay, so what is your language of love? What is your love language? How's your self-narrative going? How do you connect with the people around you? You know, how do you see the people? Remember I said, do we look through with eyes of love, or are we looking through with these kind of critical, I don't know, you know, I've heard that now there's so many young girls who are going and getting all the Botoxes and everything because of this. Because look, we come in close. Like, I don't know, because everybody's up, so I can't really see. But we come in close, and now you see my skin, and you see every line, right? Okay? So that perfectionism of how we want to perceive ourselves. I heard this really cool thing. I know, I got to tell you this. Because you know me, I love tech. But now, see, now we can go into virtual worlds, and apparently they've been doing studies, so they see that if a person inhabits a virtual world, they actually, when they are out of that virtual world, the mind has absorbed that as a conscious reality, and then they act out in the way of that reality. You see how in the mind, the brain, we know so very little about the brain. We know so very little about it. And of course, in knowledge itself, the more we know, the less we know. But talk about unexplored territory, right? Like the ocean. You know, how deep does it go? How high does it go? How far? Oh my goodness! When I chose to do hyperbaric oxygen to counteract the effects of the radiation burning the inside of my body alive and destroying my nervous system, so I couldn't walk and talk. It was really, really difficult. It was difficult too because, you know, there were people around me. Okay, so, you know, but I remember oxygen, and it's just a breath of fresh air for the brain. It's amazing what oxygen will do for the body. The challenges is finding good oxygen, because the oxygen that we have isn't necessarily always clean. But oxygen is a beautiful breath for the body. And I think one of the reasons why I loved being out west was because I could walk around outside and there weren't any factory buildings and corporate buildings, and it wasn't right in the center of the hub of New York and Manhattan and Boston, but we do have the ocean. So hopefully the water pulls and some of your smoke from the west has come east, and the jet streams are out there, and we all have to deal with it in a way that supports our body, our individual body, that someone else may say, well, I don't need to do that. Well, lovely, that's great. You know, they'll have to do something else, but they don't have to do that. Blessings, whatever it is. So I covered a lot of the power foods here. I talked about the chia, the hemp. You know, when choosing potatoes, go sweet potato over white potato. Simple things like that will make a big difference. I love chlorophyll and I love chloroxygen. If you know what I'm talking about and you've ever had chloroxygen, it is fabulous. I know I've shared it with some of my East Coast clients that I've had the privilege of being able to share some counsel and some healing support, some Reiki, some of the work that I do. But that's also a nice kind of supplement to get when you're feeling like, oh my gosh, you know, I just don't think I'm eating really good. So you want to take your water and your lemon, and then you can put a drop or two of the chloroxygen in it. It's chlorophyll tablets, chlorophyll powder. You know, you can drink wheatgrass. They have the powders. You can rinse with wheatgrass. It's good for your teeth to clean out. The chlorophyll is good for the body. It's oxygen. So you know why the romaine lettuce is the one that always gets a little fussy? Because romaine lettuce has omega-3s in it. So sometimes, you know, we find that the romaine lettuce, people go, well, the romaine lettuce got bad, you know, salmonella or something. And it's like, well, it has fat in it. Did you know that wild rice isn't rice, it's grass? So even though we know that rice has arsenic in it, if you choose wild rice, it's more along the grass family. Plant-based is the way to go. Carrots every day, carrots and apples. I think carrots are really good. They're just good for the liver, they're good for the eyes, they're good for the body, they're good for the skin. They're just good, plain old good for you. And so when you are deciding what you want to eat for the meals that you want to eat, generally it's best to eat your small meals continuously, and you know, throughout the day, having small little meals. You know, a little meal. Give me a little meal. This is my little meal right now. My ruby heart. And so that's one of the things that you really want to be conscious of is, what are we doing with the meal, and how are we eating? And we're going to continue this. I'm going to be coming back every week on Thursday with the same continuation of the foods, and I'll bring Reiki and I'll bring yoga, and I'm just going to bring bringing me here pretty raw, you know, and hopefully relevant, and sending you my love and light. I'm going to open up right now for questions, just in case there's anyone who would like to ask me any questions regarding anything that I've been speaking about. I'm here to answer anything right now. I notice there are people in the room. I'm going to come forward and see what we have to. Maybe get to see Ruby. Ruby, little Ruby. He's such a good little boy. Okay, so everyone's here. So if you have any questions, this would be a good time to send me up a question. You know what else is fun to do? If you can put up some of those hearts or thumbs up or any of those other little things, because that, I guess, helps to move things along in the algorithmic world here that we live in. And then that way you can pass the love on, and someone else who may actually, you know, be able to benefit from it too can watch. And we never know in life, do we? That's the beautiful thing about being alive and being open to meeting new people and hearing what each other has to say. And I look forward to seeing everyone. Remember, you can come by the Facebook. I have the YouTube page. There's a web page under Thunder Mountain. You can Google me, Kathleen Fennedy. I'm on LinkedIn as Reverend Dr. Kathleen Fennedy. I'm a minister in the Universal Life Church, and a Doctor of Medical Humanities. So I don't know if I'm seeing any questions from anyone. Looks like you're all here. Blessings to everyone. And I hope to see you all next week. Do share. Bye-bye, Ruby says. Kiss your pet. And if you don't have one, maybe you could hug somebody else's pet. And get those good life critters. And have a lovely week. And I'll see you again. Blessings. Blessings of love and light. Bye-bye.